The Angry Chicken Hearthstone podcast is produced by amove.tv. Check out amove TV for more podcasts covering Blizzard games. For more of Jocelyn's gaming podcasts, visit jossplays.com. And to find many more podcasts with Ridiculous Hat, follow @RidiculousHat on Twitter. Every episode of TAC is made possible thanks to our legendary patrons over at patreon.com/TAC.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Legendary!
You beast Jaraxxus! You smell like a leopard gnome! I knew it! So hot!
A podcast about Hearthstone and Battlegrounds. This is The Angry Chicken!
Greetings and welcome back, everybody. This is TAC. I'm Garrett Weinzerl, here as always with Jocelyn Carney, and first name Ridiculous, last name Hat.
That is true. It says that in my license.
I hope so. I hope so. I imagine you having a fake license a la super bad, so it's like Hawaii, and it just says Ridiculous Hat, or I guess Hat Ridiculous. Suddenly I don't know how names are written on driver's licenses.
I guess it depends on the state, and also it's not something you have to think about too much. And what I want you to imagine, Garrett, pretend it's a movie scene where I'm getting pulled over by a cop who was the straight man in the scene, and I hand over my license, and he says, your last name is Hat? Don't be ridiculous. Oh, wait a second. And he looks at the license. That's the scene. That's how it plays out.
Okay.
The jokes are just baked in.
Yeah, you should write for a Seth Rogen comedy. That was riotous.
Oh, so Seth Rogen could be the guy driving, and he would do the Seth Rogen laugh, which I'm not going to try and imitate thing, but yeah, that one. This would work together. I'm going to call my agent after the show.
And that was a Garrett laugh. Yeah. Hi, welcome back, everybody. So much has changed. I mean, technically we recorded. No, it hadn't. The patch hadn't dropped yet. We recorded knowing what was in the patch, but the patch was going to drop shortly after we finished recording, also known as Tuesday, the next day. We record this on Monday nights. Happy Monday, everybody. So much has changed. We've got a lot to talk about. You're going to hear the word polarization a lot today. And if we had something like the word of the day, that would be the word of the day. Or polarizing. Or binary. Or extremes. Or yada, yada, yada. You're going to hear a lot about that today because people have some feelings in either direction. In the good and the bad directions. People have thoughts. I really would like just one time to end up in a Hearthstone meta where you like go to the Reddit and the predominant consensus is, yeah, it's okay. I would love to go to the Hearthstone subreddit, set it to top, and go to filter and go last week and see more than 50% of the posts be memes about how it's just fine.
How happy they are. How much fun they're
I want to
having.
see 700 upvotes on, yeah, it's okay, I guess. That's what I want. That's the world I want to. I'm not saying I want that all the time. I'm just saying I want to get there once. Just once. So
I do remember when the main Hearthstone Reddit was happy, but it's a long time ago. And it was about how crazy original Yogg was. And I don't think that aged all that well.
No, they're clearly mad, and had no idea what they were talking about because it was Yogg.
Oh, mad like crazy, not mad like angry.
Yes, I may have watched episode 2 of What If last night, and I'm thinking of a Thanos one-liner that was particularly good. Sorry, I guess spoilers. Thanos is in episode 2 of What If. Anyways.
All right.
Whatever. Everything's made up and the plot doesn't matter in that show. It's just fun. Just have fun with it. But yeah, we've got quite the show for you today. We've got as always, some things to announce at the top. Some thanks to give. We want to thank our patrons supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. If you like the show, you want to support us. There's 3 of us now. There was 2. It's a 3-way split. We would love some more support, so check out patreon.com/TAC. And thank you to our most recent patron, who also has a fun name to say, Sea Junks. Thank you, Sea Junks. Or Kajunks. but the C and the J are together. There's no vowel in between, so I'm going with C Junks. And also wanted to give a shout out to AJ Kozlowski for doubling their pledge. Thank you so much, AJ. And then just a mini PSA, because got a message from a tag patron who was like, hey, yo, I want to give more, but I don't want to like go up to producer level. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. You know, I get that. It's a big jump. They're like, could you add another level? And I go, you can set it to whatever you'd like. You can customize it. You don't have to. We have suggested levels. So that's all they are. Patreon, you have full control. You want to give $1? You want to give $1.50? You want to give $4.20 and say YOLO in a DM after you give it? You can do that. You can absolutely do that. And I'm not calling anyone out. I actually get this question a lot, and I realize I guess it's just not that obvious that you can do that. So I just want to let everyone know that it's something you can do. Another thing you can do is potentially win a Battlegrounds Beauties and Cuties bundle, because the Hearthstone team sent us 4 of these beautiful / cutiful bundles to give away, and we're going to be doing
good word.
Exactly that. We just minutes ago put out a tweet. If you're watching live, minutes ago, obviously you're hearing this on the download. Don't worry, you still have time to enter. We just put out a tweet on the @TAC podcast account. If you're not already following that account, you're missing out on most of our giveaways, first of all. And definitely updates on the show, so you should be doing that. But we just put that tweet out. It is linked in the show notes. If I'm a good podcaster, I'll remember to link it in the actual body of the post, so you don't need to go into the show notes to find it. But you could also just go to @TAC podcast. But it went out today for this giveaway. You need to make sure you're following us on Twitter, and you need to retweet to enter. We're going to pick 4 winners and announce them on next week's podcast. And there might be another giveaway next week. I'm just putting that out there. Just
Dun, dun, dun.
stay tuned. Stay tuned. It's a secret to the thousands of you that are downloading this. So there you go. There you go. If you want to win a beauty and a cutie bundle, there's your chance. And that's it for the top of the show. What shall we call it? The housekeeping, coop keeping. The top of the show, coop keeping. The coop is now kept, and we'll get into this week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
Alrighty. It's time to talk about the meta. It feels like it's all we've been doing, but the meta changed again. It wasn't what I would call boring before it changed, but it has changed. The patch that we detailed in episode 429 that went up last week has hit the game, and we've had just under a week with it. And, well, some things have changed, some things haven't. Paladin and Shaman are still doing quite well. Demon Hunter's not doing too shabby themselves. Hat, you were singing the praises of Face Priest. It is also doing very, very well, and I believe another member of this here podcast is enjoying it to, I would say, almost borderline like evil genius levels.
I also, would allow you to call me a fanatic.
Oh, okay. I just heard that
feels very on-brand theme for Shadow Face Priest.
Oh, that does that. Okay, Brant. Oh, you're going full lore. I like that. I like that. You were just. I may have heard somebody, you yourself, take what I would describe as noteworthy amounts of joy in causing a demon hunter to concede.
On turn 2.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah. It was, oh man, it was great. They even did their first step of their quest, and then they were just like, I can't win here. And I was like, no, you can't. Get out my game.
What is I'm going to HS Replay. I'm clicking on Aggro Shadow Priest is what they have this popular list.
If you were playing against
the
the Momentum Demon Hunters, I've been calling it, the Quest Demon Hunter, Shadow Priest is by far the worst matchup. Like, you just kind of stomp them, and if you had an early attendant and just a wide board, they just can't do anything.
Which is
I had 2.
probably
gross.
Yep.
So much damage.
If I look at matchups from the priest side, there's not enough demon hunters to register on HS Replay, so it's looking like I'm gonna have to. But I'm just gonna take your word for it, Hat. I'm just gonna take your word for it because you were.
I'm looking under. It depends on the rank filter that you're at, but where I'm looking here, it's. I mean, I also may have been playing the Demon Hunter, and I know what I've been losing to, and it's definitely Shadow Priest. But it looks like the Diamond through Legend, since the balance patch, the matchup against Quest TH is 70% for the Priest, which is devastating.
Unless you're the priest.
Yes.
Yes, which is probably as good a place as ever to get into the conversation about how we find ourselves in a polarized meta. Because as happy as you may be, Joss, that Quest Demon Hunters just decide to go make a coffee instead of play this game, there's another person on the end of that has decided to go make a coffee instead of play this game. And that sentiment isn't one that I would say is unique. I've seen a good amount of fury.
But
almost
strong feelings, right? They have it either way. Because there are some people that are like, this is awesome, there's so much to do, and the games are over so fast. And there are other people that are like, this sucks, there's too much to do, the games are over too fast. And you get two sides of the same coin about everything. And yeah, the matchups in particular, there are a lot more 70-30s than I remember most metas having. Most of the time, I remember a lot of 50-50s, 55-45s. A 60-40 was a bad matchup. You would occasionally get the 65-35 matchups. It's like, oh, this is really rough. Right now, there are matchups that are in the 70s, or even if you look at a deck like Poison Rogue, that deck is all 80-20s and 20-80s, and that is pretty far beyond what we've seen in most standard environments, as long as I can remember.
I feel like it's like the last time we had a very in-depth conversation around polarization, I feel like we were talking about Control Warrior, Odd Warrior specifically, where it was like, if you queued up against them as some decks, you had a 20% chance of winning. Like, that's the last time I can really remember getting into this kind of a conversation. And that was a long time ago.
Witchwood, right? Witchwood and Boomsday.
Mhm.
And the polarization made so much sense there too, because when you lose to your opponent's button, there's no chance they don't draw it, right? It's there every
Right.
game that like they just press this thing and then that thing is good enough to beat you. Same with Odd Paladin. Some decks that were just trying to keep up with your amount of resources. Well, your resources was a button, so you press it and then they lose. And
Mhm.
there were enough of those sorts of things, as well as the coin as well was heavily devalued in those matchups because you so consistently needed to hit your curve, that being first versus second was enormously impactful. And so there was also a really big coin differential, especially in mirror matches, because if you're an odd deck, the coin doesn't do very much.
Mhm.
So that sort of thing, it was a big deal in Witchwood and that whole year, of course, because of the hero powers. But now it's different because we have the quests, right? But that's still only your play for turn one. But just the nature of how these decks function, they have really, really clear strategies that they beat really reliably and strategies that they lose to reliably.
Yeah. I have a sense of the middle of Year of the Dragon feeling similar. I don't think quite to this extreme, but I don't know. I'm trying
You mean
to.
in terms of like decks having polarized matchups, or in terms of like people's feelings towards the meta?
Oh, of decks having kind of polarized matchups. A feeling like regardless of what deck I pick, there's like at least three archetypes, if not three classes worth of pretty poor matchups that just make Hearthstone ladder as it exists and as it for the most part has always exists feel more grindy than usual. Where you're just kind of sitting there, okay. Where I'm just gonna make this personal. Where I'm just kind of sitting there crossing my fingers, like I hope to God I don't see X, Y, or Z, if I'm playing one of those decks. But also kind of feeling like a lot of decks kind of fall in that category where you have like your really strong matchups, and then you have those ones where you just go, unless they absolutely brick, I am doomed. I don't think Saviors was as bad because I'm trying to think of like another 5-set meta, and if it was Year of the Dragon, it would have been Saviors. Yeah. And yeah, I don't think.
I mean, if they drew Luna's Pocket Galaxy on 5, that was bad for you, but that was you're polarized where every deck that wasn't Pocket Galaxy on 5 lost to you, so that's not quite the same.
Yeah,
right. And I wonder if right now, because Garrett, you're right, it feels like there are quite a lot of decks to play within a certain like archetype or style umbrella. And so I think that probably means that there's also a lot more people like playing certain styles. And I know I'm trying to kind of like phrase this in the correct way, but what I'm kind of trying to get at is, let's say, as an example, I don't like Demon Hunter. So
What?
Wait.
This is
don't?
too unrealistic. I'm sorry. I can't get behind this. Could you pick a more realistic analogy?
okay, well, let's just say I don't like Demon Hunters, but their combo, like their lifesteal combo deck, let's say that they are super high win rate and combo is a great way to play and everything else. But if combo is the only way to play and Demon Hunter is my only option, I'm not going to play that. I'm going to go play some other strategy, whether that's aggro to kill the combo before it goes off or whatever. Like, I'm going to go down some other avenue. Whereas if I like combo, but there's 4 or 5 different classes I can play a cool combo in, I can pick and choose which classes I like to play. And then I'm not forced to try to play Demon Hunter if I want to play under that umbrella. Does that make sense? Like, if there's more options, there might be more people that are able to play within a certain archetype. So then you just see that archetype more often.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm
And
like explaining what I'm trying to explain.
I get
well.
it. This meta is so 5-set metas have been defined historically, at least in the Alec Dawson 5-set metas where the middle set starts with the letter S era, which is the past 3 years, right? Saviors, Scholomance, and Stormwind.
Well, technically,
Those three.
Stormwind starts with the U, but okay.
So it's Stormwind. Yes. When's the last time you said United?
I have no joke for this.
When's the last time you said Untied?
Ah, there you go.
Only while talking to Jocelyn, and usually it was Jocelyn saying "Untied."
Yes. I just wanted to hear you say it again. So if you look at Diamond through Legend last 3 days on HS Replay right now, there are 28 archetypes listed there, and I know there are some that are missing or developing. There are so many options right now. In addition, something that I think Team 5 has been getting way better at, for better or worse, honestly, is separating perception from win rate. Think about how many conversations we had about our buddy Ticketus, old Ticky, as we call him. Never a good deck. Never once in the entire time I was around a good deck. People lost to it, but it doesn't make it as good. It was always below 50% win rate, but it had a perception of being powerful, and they heard a lot about it. By the way, people aren't really talking about Ticketus no more. Turns out fatigue's not a thing. So
Yeah, but just trade Ticketus for Warlock in general. Just gesture broadly. Just gesture broadly at Warlock. Don't you want upvotes, Hat? Don't you want upvotes? Gesture broadly at Warlock. Warlock is bad. Warlock bad.
The only winning move in this game is not to play. That's my approach to Reddit. Is full war games. Only winning move, do not play. So, but you look at Ticketus. Ticketus was a deck that people played in large numbers despite it not actually winning. And you look at Spellmage for all of last year. Before Barons came out, it was a bad deck the whole time, was super popular, and then it's back. And it's super popular and it's good. And then they nerf it and it stays popular. Then they nerf it again and it stays popular, even though it's still a bad deck. Now it's kind of good again, and then they nerf it again and it's kind of okay and still really popular. And the conversation around Warlock in general, I'm getting to your point, Garrett, especially around D6 or Stealer Warlock. D6 because it has 6 demons in it, 2 matrons, 2 dark glares, and 2 stealers. So D6, I guess, is the thing now. Which is the full combo deck that does, like, every so often has a pop-off turn, and that's the episode we did a couple weeks ago. We talked about it. That deck is dropping in play rate, low win rate, and qualifiers at 42% win rate, which is not a good number. And you look at how many decks are being played right now and in the past year that have really gotten popular despite being not competitively ideal or optimal. Team 5 has gotten way better at getting us to play what feels powerful rather than what is, which I think is important, but also means the meta shift towards polarity often means that a deck has very clear weaknesses, and Team 5 has found a way to make cards that make us play decks with clear weaknesses. So I wonder if that's actually gotten to the point where if everyone is committing to a deck they're playing because it's fun and feels powerful but has major glaring weaknesses, instead of playing things like Rush Warrior, which is super even across the board, or Secret Paladin, because these are archetypes that existed last expansion, they're playing things that feel more off the wall and then losing more to bad matchups because they're not playing decks that have fewer bad matchups and then saying, oh, this meta's polarized. Josh, I think that's what you were getting at.
Kind of.
A little bit.
Yes.
Little bit. What I find interesting is when you go to like History Play right now, and we take a look at the meta screen, it's the top decks are Paladin, Shaman, Demon Hunter, and then Priest. There's a bunch of Demon Hunter and Paladin and Shaman repeated, but Priest. So I'm looking at this and going, okay. And then like I'm looking at these decks and most of them, speaking generally here, have pretty strong matchups across the board. Secret Paladin doesn't seem to have like a massive hard counter. Same for Elemental Shaman. And yet all of the focus is on Warlock from a
If you
criticism
if
standpoint.
If we change the rank filter there, you'll see it also shifts dramatically as you go from rank to rank. If you go to top 1000 Legend, the number one deck in the past 3 days is Quest Warlock, which is the handlock deck, not the Stealer deck. If you go to regular Legend, and Secret Paladin's number 1, Quest Warlock's number 2, Shadow Priest number 3. You go down to Diamond ranks, Quest Warlock starts to drop, and drop some more, and drop some more.
Okay, so are you saying that everyone on the subreddit is a top 1000 Legend player?
I'm saying that right now, people are saying the broken thing
that's
is whatever
impressive
their
because
bad
there's more than
matchup is.
1,000 people.
That's what they're saying.
Okay.
It's all about people. Whatever people are losing to is where the problem is right now, and that's how they're expressing it. But the reality is, I think that, Josh, what you're saying makes more sense to me, and what both you're getting at is that the polarization makes it pretty hard to view an experience where you hit a bunch of losing games that you don't feel like you had agency over is something that's possible to feel good about. But if you prefer the variety and the options and you say, okay, I lost a bunch, I'm going to try something else, this is about as good as a meta gets for you because there are so many different ways to play.
But
Yeah.
I'm wondering too if that's kind of feeding into the conversation, because like back to kind of to build on what you're saying, Hatton, to what I was saying a little bit earlier, is that like, let's say I'm playing a deck and I'm losing to bad matchups, right? And I'm like, you know what? There's just so much of X on the ladder. I can't win with this deck. What else is popular? Ooh, I'm going to try this. And I might be like gravitating towards something that has the same weaknesses, maybe without realizing it, because I'm thinking, oh, I'm switching from, class A to class B. They're totally different, like, cards and everything else, but not realizing both of them are weak to Warlock. And then I go on there and I'm like, hey, I've totally changed up my strategy, different deck, different class, let's go. And I'm still losing to the same kind of stuff. It's like reinforcing your biases, right? Like it's saying, oh yeah, that's the thing that's terrible is Arg Warlock, instead of looking for the deck that would go and beat that. We're just gravitating to, even though we're changing because there are so many options, we're gravitating still towards the same sort of stuff.
Okay, I see.
Maybe with or without realizing it.
Changing form but not changing function.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay. So then what's happening here is someone is playing Shadow Priest. They lose to Perpetual Flame into Canal Slogger. Oh, that sucks. All right, you know what's going to beat them? Face Hunter. They lose to Perpetual Flame into Canal Slogger. Oh, this sucks. I'm going to switch to Death Rattle Demon Hunter. They lose to Perpetual Flame into Canal Slogger. Oh, nothing beats Quest Shaman. If they just picked up a little Quest Mage, you get them. Okay.
There you go.
I get you. I see you.
You get me. You've explained much better than I did, clearly.
No, we figured out. We got there together, so it's working together.
But yeah, so I feel like that's maybe where a lot of the feelings around this meta are coming from.
And also, I'm scrolling down looking for the decks that really want to bring the game to turn 10 or later. Oh, wait, there aren't any. Because also, I think there's a very real conversation to be had about game duration. And some of us who just left Barrens and the Control Priest experience of Barrens, maybe we're not looking to get back there, but also Control players are people too. And if anyone in Hearthstone wants a game to go longer than 10 turns consistently right now, There is no place you can do that except the classic format. And that is also a new thing.
Yeah, which that actually is probably my biggest gripe with this meta, or I guess not even really gripe, because I'm still having fun. I still think that this is fine. I'm one of those players that I like to, I guess, make minions that are interesting and threatening and have a lot of minion combat on board and have games go 10 or 15 turns, like very tempo-y, mid-rangey type stuff, right? Like I like the making big stuff and then having them go bang and the screen shakes and everything feels cool. Like I that's the kind of Hearthstone that I really enjoy. And you don't do that very often in decks these days. And like if you do and you're making big minions that are making the screen shake, you're still doing that by turn 6 and then just killing your opponent. And that, like, I don't know, I like when I'm in a lengthy but not boring, because I think like control v control matchups can just make me cry because they're so long and boring. But there's got to be a middle ground there where you have like a matchup that is a like back and forth struggle that eventually you just like one side wins, and at the end of it you're like, oh man, that was worth my time and so much fun, and there was push and pull and I thought you were going to get it but then I was going to get it, and then somebody squeaks out a win. And it doesn't feel like there is that like push and pull to the matchups right now. Like everything just feels like people are doing stuff and playing all their own game, and then turn 6 or 7 somebody explodes.
So let me summarize, because I think that we've put together the whole thing right here, is that when you have a combination of polarity feeling like a reduction of agency and game length being notably shorter, it can be hard for some people to feel that they're getting invested into games.
Yes.
That they don't feel like that you're engaging in it in a meaningful way where you get that emotional investment. And I'm not saying that there's a right or wrong answer here. I love the faster games, and I feel invested in the early turns, as I always have. But also, some people are going to feel like, oh, but I was just getting started. I just got to do my big thing. Some people still want to play Alex Strauss of the Lifebinder. You can't do that anymore. You can't play a 9-mana card. Let's get out of here with that.
No one has time for that.
No. So I think the speed of the game is a hallmark of this meta. I'm not going to call it a good thing or a bad thing, because that's going to be a very personal choice. But I think that if people said, I don't really feel like I get invested in games right now because the duration is too fast and the match is too polarized, I think that's a reasonable concern. And if someone says, I like the faster games and the variety, and I like that I can be rewarded for my deck choice and see it play out and just focus on the execution early game and the push and pull in a more compressed window, I think that's a legitimate compliment. What's the word? What's the opposite of concern? I guess compliment. I don't know. Legitimate good thing, positive thing. That there's no wrong way for feelings.
Well, yeah, we've come around to this before, and it's just like there are different types of metas that have existed over the history of Hearthstone, and you can almost have meta archetypes. Maybe one day we should do an episode where we're trying to find those. But
I feel like I just saw some sort of like archetype thing floating around on Twitter within the last couple of weeks.
In regards to some people, metas?
Yeah, like metas. Cool. Yeah.
I definitely missed that. Anyways, I think there's a lack of admittance of the fact that there are certain players that prefer one type of meta over another, and that's okay. if that makes any sense. Like these are
so hold on. You mean that when I go to a restaurant, when they have more than one item on a menu, that somebody isn't incorrect? That people can choose different things and like different things.
As long as it's not pineapple on your pizza.
Oh, what? Pineapple on your pizza, Garrett, is delicious. My favorite pizza has pineapple on it.
What have we done? What have we done?
I stand by what I said.
Save the angry chicken. Save us from ourselves.
Stand by what I said. Stand by it. Whatever. That's listen. That's only an issue because it is like one of the most shared party foods in the world. So decisions.
I love how He's like, whatever. And then he's like, no, you know what?
Common ground must be
Keep the
found.
thing.
Anyways, yeah, that's the kind of thing.
If we both party together, I'm gonna get 2 pizzas. Right? That's the solution here, is get an extra pizza.
Yeah, for me, like I don't like, to me, I kind of move in between. I oscillate between like the kind of like what I'm hoping for, and usually it has to do with like the meta we were just in. But I think this is as close as I get to a meta that I kind of historically just don't love, which is when there's that type of polarization. Because I do tend to kind of 2 or 3 trick decks. But when there's, I at the same time, like right now, for some reason, I am enjoying the experimentation, but I'm feeling horribly punished for experimenting. Like it feels like I like if I look at a deck, I go, oh, that piques my interest. You know, either I just beat it or it beat me or whatever the case, but something tipped me off, and I go pull up the deck list and I look at matchups and I see some of those 30-20% win rate, like, ooh, I don't even want to bother. Like, because what if I end up in that matchup? Because I did my least favorite feeling in this game is like just seeing another class and going, well, I'm just gonna concede. Like, I'm not saying you should do that. I definitely advocate for finishing your game out, but I absolutely have that feeling. I am definitely a human being with emotions that sometimes go, yeah, this is just, I don't even want to bother because I've lost 6 times to this archetype today, and it just feels like there's no point. And that's where I start, like, my enjoyment starts to erode rapidly. And so I think what I can speak to is me, and why I personally, I think, am not over the moon with this meta right now is that I in the first couple of days of the patch, I got my ass handed to me so hard. I just was like, God, I just want to get some consistent wins. I just want a little upward trajectory. And this is where it gets personal. I have no other way to discuss this, but it's just like the decks that I'm finding upward trajectory with are these decks that are on the top of HS Replay, and in my opinion, they are boring. I am winning. I'm doing great with Elemental Shaman. You know what felt really nice, really nice the first week of the expansion? Not playing the glowing cards and it being the right way to play.
Yeah.
And now I'm playing the glowy cards and it's the right way to play.
Rush Warrior. Blizzard told us Rush Warrior is a good deck. And going back to that same matchup frequency chart that I told you about, the meta chart on HS Replay, it's not on the chart. No one wants to play last expansion's deck. And so,
there's definitely a new shiny feel here.
Right. And also, this meta is one of the more challenging that I can remember in terms of execution of playing any deck that you pick up. There's a lot of really technical sequences and plays, and a lot of really, then there's a ton of matchup knowledge you have to know. So in experimentation, you get rewarded with variety and the fun there. But if you're experimenting trying to win games, you've got probably a 10-game win rate or 10-game period before you even know how to play your deck, if that. Combined with knowing how to play it in specific matchups, combined with knowing if the deck changes over time, it's very difficult to keep up with, like most 5-set metas. And these are not easy decks to play. You look at the disparity when you go through that rank filter on HSR, and like it's a huge difference as to what works at the higher ranks versus what works at the lower ranks for a lot of reasons. But also just because some of these decks really have some nuances. In particular, the Quest Handlock Warlock, really great deck, fun to play. None of your minions really cost any mana, but also very challenging to optimize. It plays like old school Handlock, and for those of you that played back in Classic, you may remember with old school Handlock, sometimes you would go tap giant die. That happens in this meta too. There's a lot of damage. Sometimes they got 2 Void Touch Tenants, and Jaws is there to get you.
Yeah, it's true. I have had a lot of success against Warlock as well.
Because you just get them.
Yeah, you just get them. They're like, oh, you're damaging your face? I'm damaging your face too. Oh, you
When
healed
both
for
players
3?
want to damage the same place, somebody is wrong.
Yeah.
When both players are like, let's hit just this one together. You shouldn't work together with your opponent to make sure that you take damage.
But I do agree. A lot of these decks are very very difficult to pilot. And I think that's been another struggle of mine is that I don't see the matrix when it comes to Hearthstone. Like if I've watched a lot of streams and grandmasters and like read guides, eventually I'll get the hang of it. But like I don't just inherently look at a deck list and think, "Oh, I do this and this and then I win." Like I just kind of like I load up decks and then I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to try playing this and this and I'm going to try doing this and this." But there's not a whole lot of room for failure because I'm inevitably going to go up against another player who knows exactly what they're doing with their super powerful deck and are probably laughing at me as they watch me struggle to play my super powerful deck because they know I've played out cards I'm going to need on turn 6 because it's a 1-drop. And I'm like, I have 1 mana, it's a 1-drop. And they're like, noob. And I'm like, oh.
Well, I've got news for you, Josh. You could pick up this elemental shaman deck. Just play the shiny cards. You'll be fine. It'll work out.
I have tried elemental shaman because shaman is one of my classes that's like very, very, very close to golden. And I'm like, I want to play and just like get my 500 wins and move on. And then I'm like, but I don't like this.
Yeah, that's how
like,
I'm feeling too.
It's like there's no middle ground right now. It feels like there's no middle ground between the like fairly straightforward and easy to play decks and then the super duper complicated decks. It's like, again, another kind of polarization is just deck complexity, and there's like some super duper easy straightforward ones and then there's a lot of really really hard ones, and I just want a medium. Like I want something that I have to use my brain sometimes, but that if I play the wrong card on the wrong turn, my deck isn't useless.
I think you found the medium with Face Priest.
Yes,
I think Face Priest is
some nuance and complexity that I enjoy.
Yeah, I think that is a solid medium deck in terms of complexity to play. So what a wonderful little rant for you to go on, because like it perfectly paints a picture of the deck that you are finding joy with.
Yes.
Like it's very interesting. So yeah, I don't know. It's like I hate to say it, but it's like I think I just need more time. Like I need to just accept this meta.
But you don't have to. Like, not every meta is going to be for everyone. And the people that say this is the best meta in the world that I'm enjoying it, that doesn't have to reflect your experience. And the people that say this is the worst meta in the world doesn't have to reflect your experience either. But if you're not digging it, you don't have to. Everyone's going to have their time in any Hearthstone expansion cycle where you decide this isn't the meta that you want to spend the most time in, you'll take it, you'll chill. At the end of Barons was like that for me. I spent 6 weeks not playing a ton of Hearthstone. And right now I'm jamming a ton of Hearthstone, a lot of it. And I'm actually having a lot of fun with like lower win rate decks, and they're working because they scratch the itches that I have in this game, and like I get to draw a lot of cards and all that, and it's fun, and I'm doing pretty well. And there's probably going to be another point later in the year at the end of the 6-set meta where I'm like, I'm all set.
Yeah, I still really, really enjoy Quest Mage, but I get horribly, horribly punished when I play it. It has some abysmal matchups now. I had some pretty rough ones before, to be fair, but like now it just feels a little slot machiney. Like I'm just hoping to God I get one of the really gross matchups, so I get to do all my fun things, draw a bunch of cards with my auctioneer. But yeah.
Oh my God. Can we talk about how Auctioneer is back in multiple classes, multiple decks?
I actually a good friend of ours, I won't say who, like sent me Grandmaster's highlights. Oh my God, that Quest Mage Auctioneer play was one of the sickest things I've seen. There's some pretty god tier top decks though, if I remember. I think it was like Biscuit into another Biscuit, right, to get it going. It was just like, oh, that's exactly the grossest possible outcome.
Because Auctioneer is definitely a card where like people feel like it's powerful, but all the decks that it's in are kind of dropping like a rock in win rate. But people want to play with Gadget and they want to draw a lot of cards. And there are a lot of decks in this format that draw their whole deck in one turn. A lot of them. And it's fun to do that. So I see the appeal. But Gadget and Auctioneer is also very far from a power outlier right now. So it's interesting to see people's reactions to seeing him again. Because there are some games where he will come down and you will die on turn 6. That will happen. Doesn't mean that deck is good. Just means you died in turn 6. That's just a part of Stormwind.
You end. Congratulations, you are the exception. You were the reason they're playing that deck, but they have a 38% win rate.
Something like that.
Yeah. It's interesting, and this whole conversation is spilt into the devs. Ixar was tweeting about this exact type of conversation, saying, I'll just read his tweet here. He said, I've been doing some research on how we can better track down a real answer here. I have heard more comments about best meta ever and worst meta ever during this expansion than I'm used to. If you're newer to Hearthstone, Ixar isn't. Ixar's been working on Hearthstone for a really, really long time. So that's saying something. And then he went on to say engagement among active players is tracking really well this expansion. Things like play session, daily active ranked players, etc. What we're missing is an influx of new players, but the second and third expansions of the year generally struggle there, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. The beginning of this new year is the fewest cards in the set, so that's the best time to get on if you've been away for a while or you're a brand new player.
I mean, playing a troll in video feels fun sometimes. And right now there's so many goofy things happening, and there are, once again, if you like the 5-set phenomenon of every day and a half there's a new viral deck. That is the thing that is happening right now. I got to participate in that this weekend. Dean retweeted a deck list that I posted. It was fun. So I've been playing, Joss, I'm sorry, Momentum
It's
Demon
okay.
Hunter.
It's okay.
Momentum Demon Hunter. So, and I say momentum, even though there's no card that's named momentum in the deck, but gain momentum is the second phase of the quest. But for any of you that have played Demon Hunter in World of Warcraft, there's a talent called momentum where you get to like zoom out of combat, you backflip out, and then you charge back in. And it's like, and it's really great. And you basically get to do that in Hearthstone now. I'll make that sound again if you want me to, Josh.
Please do.
Right? And so, because like you're drawing a bunch of cards with your Tusk Piercer, and then you take the tradable and you trade it back in, and then you play the Spectral Sight, and then next turn you glide and you draw a bunch of cards and you play a bunch of free 6/7s and all that.
Is that the okay? Is that the one? Because really early on, I was playing against. I beat him, but I was playing against a demon hunter that had that weapon that gains attack based on the number of cards that you've
Lion's
drawn.
Frenzy.
Yeah, okay. And then so they were just like doing the trade thing over and over and over and over and over. And then they're like, bam, my weapon has 8 attack now. Like, I'm gonna hit you in the face. And I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. That's an interesting way to use tradable.
Yes, so the deck has gotten more refined. What you do now instead, there was a list that came out of the Pheno was working on a list based on this subject, and then a player in the China server refined it. And you basically try to complete the quest by 5 or 6, and then you play Big Kurt, usually on turn 6. And then turn 7, you draw your entire deck and kill them. Because when you do that, you end up drawing a 1-mana Lion's Frenzy and a 2-mana Cane. He's still in Standard, by the way. Remember him? The guy that ignores taunts? And then you also, the rest of your deck is all super cheap draw spells, so you just draw your entire deck and then hit them for some large amount of damage. But the win rate of that deck is in the 45 to 47% range, which is exactly where I want to be. I've been playing the crap out of it. I think I've gone about 50-50 with it, maybe a little bit better. Because there are some matchups where it's really great, especially against Stealer Warlocks and Quest Mages and whoever has a full hand, and handlocks too. But it's the most fun going 50-50 I've had like ever. The mechanics of the deck are just so enjoyable that's where I'm finding the fun right now. And it's one of those decks that just like tweeted it out. It got some traction, and the next day people are on to a different Demon Hunter right now because Saddle just tweeted it out, and that's just going to keep happening every day and a half. Of we're going to find a new thing, and that's going to be cool and exciting, and we're gonna chase the novelty, and that's going to go for like in 5-set metas that goes for 6 to 8 weeks, and until the mini set comes out, maybe that'll have new stuff this time because we haven't had a 5-set mini set situation yet. And then we'll see where we land. But I also imagine that by the end of the meta, that pace will lead to significant burnout because that's what happened with Scholomance, that it was only a 3.5-month expansion. And even then that last month, everyone was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired.
I loved Skillamance, though.
It was great. But the last month ended up just being Libram Paladin, Soul Demon Hunter, and Bomb Warrior and logging off. So, like...
Yeah, but you said Libram Paladin, so I was smiling.
Yeah, Bomb Warrior.
The broom was great.
I was
Yeah.
smiling all the way to the win rate bank. It's great. It was great. It was a good time. I think Skull and Mets was probably my favorite 5-set meta that I can think of in recent memory.
It's really great. And also, post-Galaxy, pre-Tombs Saviors was also excellent. Very, very good. But it was also only 1 month. So,
Yeah. Before that, maybe Knights, and I realized Knights of the Frozen Throne, like Death Knights were really polarizing, but oh my god, I loved them. I loved them so much.
yeah.
Year of the Mammoth was a good year.
After the Jade Druid nerfs.
Yes.
Yeah, after. Yeah, not
Yes.
before. Not with 5 minutes spreading play. Not okay. Can't do that.
Well, let us know your thoughts. tacpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from both sides. Like, do you like polarized metas, or do you prefer the ones that are much more? There's safer bets. Let's call it that way. Like, there's a safer bets for your deck garage. Yeah, stable.
Yeah.
Stable. Joss, what's happened in Grandmasters besides awesome auctioneer mage plays?
I really liked watching Grandmasters this past weekend. It was a last hero standing week, and kind of to speak a little bit more to the conversation we just had about the meta. Last hero standing, when it was our original competitive format, got pretty boring because there was like 1 or 2 really good decks and everybody played them, and then there was a lot of 3-0s, and it felt like once you played your deck, if you got that first win, then you probably win the series, right? And people didn't like it, and wanted to get rid of it, and that's when we got Conquest. But with the amount of, even if they fall into the same sort of archetype or umbrella like we were talking about, there's still so much more variety in the decks. And I feel like there's also a lot of points where there was a lot of back and forth, even though it was last hero standing, because we just have so much variety in Hearthstone right now. I think last hero standing might actually be my preferred Hearthstone format right now. Like, it's exciting. You get to see people play the decks that they're really good at, but the first win isn't necessarily an automatic win of the series. And like, you feel like you can really get these, unless you pick the totally wrong strategy, right? Like, if you pick the total wrong strategy, then yeah, you're gonna have a bad time. But if your lineup has a little bit of flexibility or stuff, like I saw a lot of matchups that were like 3-2 sort of thing. And I don't know, I felt like it was really good Hearthstone this weekend. And then on top of that too, I know because Garrett, often you struggle with watching Grandmasters, but I think as well, from a viewer standpoint, with the games being a little bit shorter, it becomes a little bit easier to watch as well. Like, when you're only going to turn 6 or 7 and then you're switching to some new matchup, then it just like it's a faster pace. So I think from a viewer standpoint, this last week of Grandmasters was really, really fun to watch.
And last hero standing, to remind everyone of the mechanics, so you're not familiar. Last hero standing is one where if you win with the deck, you have to keep playing it, and if you lose the deck, you can't play it anymore. And so Conquest, you have to win with all of your decks, and once you win, you can't run it anymore. So you end up playing decks that are generally favored against a wide variety of stuff, and then you try and bully a specific strategy you expect your opponent to bring. But with last hero standing, because after you win, your opponent knows what you're going to be playing, it often ends up with counter cues where what
Mhm.
you play, then your opponent says, "Oh, I brought this thing that I'm planning on bringing against you if you have this." If I win with Paladin, you have Mage, you queue Mage in my Paladin. Okay, I queue up Doomhammer Shaman into that, and then you queue up the Quest Shaman to my Doomhammer Shaman, and so on and so forth. You get a lot of back and forth. And so, like we talked about earlier, where you didn't have time to get invested in a game, now you have the time to get invested in a series. And
Mhm.
also, you get to see if anyone can win those 30 to 35% matchups and break serve. And that's where last hero standing gets really interesting. That if someone gets really close in an unfavored game or even overturns an expected result, you can really throw off a strategy. Combined with bringing 4 decks in this meta is not an easy task to narrow down what you want to do. It's probably some Warlock, probably some Shaman, and then who knows for the other 2.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw some really interesting matches with Rogue, which is where my Gadgets and eye roll comes from, although it
Yeah.
was pretty entertaining to watch. But that was another one that felt super polarizing because it's like, okay, depending on who you queue it up against, it's like I could have a handful of coins and then just die. That doesn't feel
Yep.
so great. So, but yeah, like there were some really interesting Druid games, there were some really interesting Rogue games, and the way that the pros were navigating through it, I thought it was really, really, really fun to watch. So if you guys have been staying away from Grandmasters, I actually think this is a really good time. We have a week off of Grandmasters this weekend because Masters Tour Silver Moon starts on Friday. So you can go and watch that. Obviously, that's going to be a conquest tournament, not a last hero standing tournament. But I think it's another 3 or 4 weeks from now we get another last hero standing week. So I'm glad that they're kind of like mixing it up a little bit more in terms of the formats that we're seeing at Grandmasters, and that it's not just straight up conquest all the time, because I think that can get a little bit boring and a little bit samey. So I'm really looking forward to both the Masters Tour and also the Grandmasters. However, some sad news for NA. Muzzy has announced that regardless of how he performs this season, that he's going to retire from Grandmasters. He has been playing the game competitively for 8 years now, and has decided it's time to walk away. So, for those of you like me who have been following competitive Hearthstone for a very, very long time, this is like one of the giants, one of the greatest, has decided he is retiring from the game, which I totally get and respect. But oh man, sad day, sad day.
His lifetime earnings, according to Wikipedia, are noteworthy. Goodness. Goes all the way back to
I believe that
2015.
is a 6-digit number.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not
Um,
just barely into the six digits.
no, that's more than I've made playing Hearthstone by 6
Mhm.
digits. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an incredible player, but also, I
Mhm.
mean, you can kind of see this whole thing being a competitive gamer wears on you. And
Mhm.
I grew up with the dreams of like I'm going to be a professional Magic the Gathering player. Didn't work out. Happy that I found other stuff. And it's kind of a young person's game being a competitive gamer. Very, very few people keep that going as their primary revenue source for a long time. Um, you can do it in chess and poker if you want to, but a lot of people they do it for a few years and then they get out of it just because the stress is so intense. And
Well, and I feel like it's not even necessarily a stress thing, though. That plays a part. But I think it's the lifestyle as well, right? Like especially
yeah,
since Grandmasters has become a thing. I mean, for many, many months in a row, you are committing every single Wednesday to Sunday of being available to play Hearthstone. It's like all of your weekends are gone, all of your days are gone. Like it's the only thing that you can do. And I mean, as much as it's been entertaining, I think personally for like watching Grandmasters, I've really enjoyed it. And I love that I can turn on Twitch, well, YouTube, every weekend and have Hearthstone in the background and like have a competitive thing to watch. I really enjoy that, but I can see how it would very much weigh on like the lifestyle itself, weigh on the players, because it's a really, really big commitment, and Muzzy's been doing it since Grandmasters has been a thing. So yeah, it's sad, but
yep,
I understand it. I completely understand it.
yeah. And on the other side of the coin as well, this season in particular, especially in the Americas server, it's been really fun to watch the new crowd, the young blood come up in the ranks, and all the new GMs they're doing pretty well. Kayla's
Hmm.
Luna and McBannerface are a lot of fun to watch, and you kind of get to see
Gabby's doing
across.
really well too on the
Oh,
EU side.
well, yeah.
He's so fun to watch.
Gabby's superhuman, and also,
Hmm.
yes, but yet so human at the same time, so
Yeah.
entertaining and
Hmm.
so reactive. Um, his Masters Tour win last year was or I guess it was this year. I don't know. Time doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Was one of the most entertaining experiences I've had in a while, and I
Hmm.
remember saying at the time that there's going to be a Hearthstone renaissance in esports over the next few years, and we're going to look back at this moment as the start of it all of just getting those really human competitors there. And also, Abar taking over Hearthstone Esports as program manager. He came from Hearthstone Esports as a competitor. He knows what it takes.
Hmm.
He was a producer for their videos, and now he's running the program. They know how to get the personalities on screen. So watching the new young blood come in has been really fun, and I'm not surprised to see some of the old guard, most of the old guard, honestly, stepping back just because if we're being really, really honest, Hearthstone's not the same game that it was 8 years ago. And
No.
not a right thing or a wrong thing. It's just a reality. And I wouldn't blame anyone that grew up innovating out Chillwind Yetis saying this new game is different.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think too, like there's especially with a lot of the players like Firebat, for example, like they've had their competitive success. They don't really need grandmasters. They can just chill and stream and make their income on their own terms, on their own time. And, they don't have to be tied to the system. Whereas it's starting to feel like, especially with the compensation rate of grandmasters, that it is very much almost like the highest level of competition you'll get to in Hearthstone, but very much a springboard for a future content creation career. Like I really think that that's the kind of like career path, if that's the way you want to look at it. Like that's how this is all shaping up.
Is it like if American Idol worked as intended? Like you win it and then you're like a hit solo artist, except that only happened a few times with American Idol. I think it happens way more consistently with Hearthstone in terms of becoming a successful streamer afterwards.
I mean, streaming and content creation still is going to have its difficulties for sure, and you don't necessarily, not every super viable competitive player has the personality or even want to become a content creator.
Absolutely. I'm
but
of course speaking generally, like there's
but yes, in general, that seems to be the way that this is going to work going forward. Is like if you want to, stay, you make your money winning grandmasters, and then take that on the road and go make your own content. Because this really just like from the lifestyle and the stress and the I guess lack of money unless you win a world championship. Like I mean, so many of them have stepped back now and gone, look, I can make more just turning on my camera and streaming than and then I don't have to worry about being the best of the best all the time. I can just go and have fun. Like
yeah and not to glorify being self-employed and working from home as being nothing but good things. This definitely isn't anything that lives rent-free in my brain every second of every day, but like it is on your terms. Like you don't need to worry about the grandmaster schedule. You don't need to worry about the time zone that it happens to adhere to, all of those sort of things as well. And it probably comes down to the type of person you are. Like obviously travel is not a thing now, but it was. And like, I know like for me, I thought travel was so cool when I was younger. I thought it was like the coolest, sexiest thing. Like, oh yeah, I'm traveling. I'm going to BlizzCon, going to DreamHack, doing all these things. I don't mind traveling that much, but like, like 2 or 3 times a year, I'm good. I like being home. Like I like being a husband.
Home is nice. Home is warm and cozy and nest-like.
Yeah.
There's no comfort like your own bed and your own Wi-Fi. Both very important and both very underrated. Hotel Wi-Fi is the worst, especially if you have a little sign-in portal. Oh, I'm so mad right now. But also like it used to be that when you thought about traveling, you thought about the experience. Now it's like I have to go to LaGuardia and then my knees are going to ache for a day because I had to sit in the plane. And it's a different experience, and comfort matters a little bit more as we get older. But I don't the lifestyle, like, some people really still dig the idea of traveling and moving around, but, content creation doesn't pay enough if you don't do it every day. And if you travel, then you aren't doing content creation unless you're streaming on your trip, in which case it's not a vacation. You just brought your
You're
laptop
just
with you to
working,
work somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, which so many of them do. So many of the most successful streamers, that's exactly what they do. Are you listeners at home? Is it starting to paint a picture of why I podcast, something that's on demand, that you can get when it's convenient for you, and that I can upload when it's convenient for me.
For you, yeah.
And also why YouTube is really the truth for content creation in so many ways. The audience is huge. It's on demand. It's shorter form.
Potentially.
But so many players of games, they go to Twitch, primarily Twitch, and they stream because they just want to sit there and play their game and get paid for it, and that is the way to do that. But that is an unforgiving business. And yet at the same time, Josh, you're absolutely right. The thing that Grandmasters does is let us use our platform to help you build your own, and then you can go stand on that one too if you want, or you can stand on both. You can stand on both platforms. It's fine. But very few people really maximize that. Tice really is the one that stands out. But you look at people like Ostkaka, who was the world champion and then just never did anything with content because he didn't want to, never bothered with grandmasters, and just won worlds and then moved on.
Mhm. Also a valid career choice.
Everyone's.
I mean, I
different.
know what he's doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Hearthstone.
Yep. It's everyone forges their own path, you know. So and like I was thinking as the traveling thing was leaving my mouth, I'm like, yeah, it's not saying like if you're in your mid-30s, like everyone hates traveling. I'm sure there's plenty of mid-30-year-olds that are like, yeah, woo, can't wait to get back. Give me that vax and get me on a plane. Woo! I would actually very much like to get on a plane. That sounds lovely. Let's pick a place and go hang out there since there's no forced convention this year.
Like any place?
Pick a place.
Anywhere?
Yeah. I like New York.
Cincinnati.
Okay.
Cincinnati.
I like their chili.
I don't know anything about Cincinnati. I just picked a place.
Okay.
I don't mean any offense to anyone listening from Cincinnati. That was the first name that I came up with. I was trying to pick a random place that's like, why would we go there just to see each other when we could go to where one of us lives? But
Yeah, I have parks. You have my favorite city that I've been to, and Joss has the coolest squirrels I've ever seen. Running around
I
outside.
was like, what are you gonna give Canada? I'm really curious. To
Actually, I
know.
thought Toronto was rad, and I was really mad when I was there for your wedding that I was like only there for like 32 hours. I was like, this seems like a really dope city, and I want to explore it, and I had no time to explore it. I had Thai food that tasted
Also-
like all other Thai food I've ever eaten, and then I went to your wedding, and then I went home.
also the only city out of where the three of us live where you can get French fries with gravy and cheese on them. I want to point that out.
That
Can't
I
do
did enjoy while I was in Canada. Poutine is where it's at.
I don't know why we don't do that down here. You just take French fries, like, hey, you want some stuff? And it's like, yeah.
You want stuff on your? Do you
That's
like
the conversation.
I mean, essentially, like chili cheese, bacon fries. That's like American poutine. Let's be honest. We have just pre-melted the cheese and added more calories to the situation. And you should eat it with a fork, but we don't. We don't. Yeah. Anyways. So, well, before we take your emails, anyone have anything to promote? We're doing self-sponsors today. Joss, what have you been up to?
Garrett, I don't know if you know this or not, because people tend not to tell you things, but I just joined a new show. I am now a permanent co-host over on The Instance. So
Wait, I am a permanent co-host on The Instance.
Surprise!
Yeah. Folks, if you are not aware, there's a show called The Instance. It may have been the first podcast I ever listened to. It may have previously been about World of Warcraft. It is no longer about World of Warcraft. But this past week's episode, Joss, it was your second episode on, but your first one as a permanent host. And no one told me. So if you'd like to hear me in real time, learn that I am now on another show with Joss, which I am ecstatic about, but hear me take in that information and have an actual reaction to it, I highly recommend you go listen to the most recent episode of The Instance. I also think the episode was like my favorite episode of The Instance in a very, very long time. So
yeah, it's been a really fun show. And if you guys, because as Garrett mentioned, it was previously a World of Warcraft show, but now it's more like one gaming topic a week sort of thing. Which I'm really looking forward to doing. And I've had a lot of fun on the last couple episodes that we have done. So if you are thinking that The Instance is only about WoW and you're like, I don't play WoW, so meh. Maybe go give it a look and see what you think, because it's kind of new theme, new co-host, me, and yeah, I think it's been a lot of fun. So go check it out. I think it's theinstance.net.
just search for The Instance wherever you get your podcasts.
Or search for The Instance, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good
I just
gaming
went to
podcast.
download it while you were talking and accidentally pressed play instead of download. So if you heard that in the background.
Oh, is that what that
me.
sound was?
So
Oh.
yeah.
Nice.
Because I really want to listen to that later because I thought it was a WoW show. I'm like, oh, that's fun. Joss is doing a WoW show, but no, it's just about video games.
No,
Yeah, I
no,
like to
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna listen to it.
We're both. I mean, Joss hasn't been dipping her toe, but I am now dipping my toe in kind of general gaming discussions. Because newsflash, I play a lot of I like games. I just like games. Do you like games? I like games, and I want to talk about
I
games.
Honestly, I always thought it was odd, given how many other games you play and others that you only ever did shows about Blizzard stuff.
It is
So I was like, but you play so many
impossible.
things.
It is impossible to market general gaming stuff unless it's attached to a large established website like IGN or Giant Bomb or what have you. Giant Bomb,
True.
if you're hiring, let me know. I love your show. But yeah, it's just really hard. And to me, like I'm self-taught, all this is self-marketed. So I was just like, I don't know how to promote a thing if it's not about a single thing. So, but now I'm screwing around with it. So I was already on the instance. It's transitioning. It has transitioned into a new type of show that's, as you said, Joss, about a single gaming topic. I am also now doing Nexus Gaming News, new uploads going to be Wednesday morning, currently Tuesday. We're going to shift very, very soon. But you should go to youtube.com/AMoveTV because the video version is also highly visual. A lot more visuals than you might be used to from YouTube content from me and from Kyle, who I'm doing this with. And at the moment, we're kind of experimenting. The audio version is being uploaded into the Nexus feed. But it's about non-Heroes of the Storm stuff. It's just a major piece of gaming news. We do one upload a week, and the episode tomorrow is going to be about, I just recorded it, Garrett, should have written this down. It was about, we kind of have a over-encompassing discussion about the droves of World of Warcraft players flocking to Final Fantasy XIV, and why that might be. So, we try and take a lot of headlines and news coverage of that and boil it down into a single discussion for you. Hat, what about you? What are you up to?
I would also like you all to go listen to The Instance. Yeah. No, I do not have any notable gaming news this week, and that sounds rad as hell, so go listen to that show.
Delightful. Do that. And also write to tacpodcast@gmail.com so that we can pull your question and put it in this segment.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello?
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
If you want to skip the inbox, if you're a patron, you can just send us a message in the patron Discord. Torby Flenderson writes in and says, in the last expansion cycle, we saw Guff, Zyrella, and Kurtrus. It should be Kurtrus, right? Not Curtis?
Nope, Kurtrus.
Yeah. Added as new heroes.
I just copied pasted.
No, I'm just making sure. I'm making sure I'm not, I wouldn't be the first time that I was like, yeah, it's Kurtrus. And you're like, no, you psycho, it's Curtis. Anyway, continuing along the mercenary theme, who would you most like added to Battlegrounds next? Rokara has been missing so far, and Scabs and Tamsin are featured this cycle along with Kurtrus on the rewards track. Also, if the three of them are added, what are your predictions for what the hero powers could be? That is far too many things to ask. Let's go with the first one. Which I want Rokara. Rokara has the best hair. Rokara has a dope-ass murder mohawk, and I love it. It's so good.
I am kind of surprised that they did this thing in Battlegrounds where we were getting all the mercenaries and stuff for like Barons and Hordeside and everything else, and that was the expansion that we were in. And now we're in the Stormwind one, and we might get Rokara. It's like, no, Rokara should have come in Barons, and now we should get like Zyrella in Stormwind. Like they mixing and matching things that I don't like.
I'm fine with it. Well, what if you prefer Horde or Alliance? Like, we don't really have that. We don't focus on that too much in Hearthstone, except for literally in the year 2021, where the first two expansions are focusing exactly on that. But typically, we're not like, you don't go to a Hearthstone thing and they're like, where's my Horde at? Where's my Alliance at? That's not a thing.
That's true.
Yeah, it's Hearthstone is Hearthstone, but even if it is, like, then you're kind of, damn, I'm stuck in Stormwind. I hate the stupid Alliance and their dumb mailbox strippers. And then Rokara comes out for Battlegrounds, and you're like, oh hell yeah, I get a little shot of Horde into my veins while I wait.
While you wait this out.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I like Rokara's design a lot. She's got a mohawk and a tiny little Frostwolf pup. Like, what more could I want? I have had a mohawk and I have 3 small little pups. So
So you are Rokara? Is what
Rokara
you're
is
getting
on
at?
Rokara is on brand. I am not strong though. Rokara looks like she
Mm.
could rip me in half.
So if she was going to have a hero power, so over on the standard side of things, she's very rush warrior, right? So if we were going to do a hero power, would she be one of those like Illidan style, like do something with attacking first kind of deals, do you think? Because obviously there's no real rush in Battlegrounds.
Well, in standard, if something attacks and survives, it gets bigger. I could easily see that translating really well. It's kind of like a more fixed Eliza, because when pirates attack with Eliza in play, everything gets bigger right away, whether it survives or not. But I could very easily see a attack and survive. This minion gets +1/+1 or something like that. That'd be a pretty reasonable passive, I think. It could be a little snowbally, but Rokara's kind of that way. But
What if it
they're
was
way
like
streamed.
targeted? What if it was like you could
Could be.
target a minion and then if that minion attacks and survives, then it gets bigger? Like plus whatever. Not permanent stats unless it was like +1/+1.
Yeah.
If it was targeted, I think that I'd be concerned about it being too low impact unless it was permanent. Unless it was specifically Yoho Ogre, and that we're getting the giant BG's refresh in the very near future, so I don't know what many.
True. Yeah, we
been a
don't even
lot
know
of-
what it's gonna look like.
There's been a lot of pirate mentions without stating the fact that the most recent Rokara we got is literally a pirate.
That is true.
So Rokara could also be another pirate-specific hero. We do already have patches. Do we have more than one minion-type specific hero? I don't think we do.
We have a bunch. Chenvala is minion type specific.
No, but I mean, do we have
No,
No, but
two
you mean,
for
like
the
there's
same
not
minion type?
two that are specific to elementals or two that are specific to Guild
Oh.
Wars. It's like there's like one of
Super-
each.
hmm.
I think it's one of each.
I think it's one of each as well. 'Cause,
Although I can't think off the top of my, is there a beast one?
Yeah, the Lich King.
you.
It was
Get outta here.
Mukla back in the day, but he was awful, so no.
Yeah, we don't have a new beast hero.
Yeah.
For me, the beast hero is Akazam Zarak, so I can survive one more damn turn to find my Goldrin. That's my beast hero.
Oh, Albardo in chat has proven us wrong though. Alexstrasza and Ysera are both dragon heroes.
Yeah, I guess that's technically correct. Which is the best
Yeah.
kind of correct.
I would say, yeah. I mean, yeah.
They
I
work
guess.
in very different ways though. Like Ysera has a larger impact on the pool, like consistently throughout the entire game, whereas Alexstrasza is just yoinking
Is
two
one
dragons
huge spike,
on
yeah.
one turn.
They're different, but they both say the word dragon in the hero power.
That is
They
true.
do. They
That's
do.
fair. But that's a good example of how you could have. That's actually great. Thank you, Albardo, because that's a great example of how you could differentiate two heroes that are both complementary of a specific minion type, even though Alexstrasza isn't, because she never gives me the dragons I'm looking for, and they're just there. Thank you for the 2 gold, Alexstrasza.
I've
be okay,
stopped
Garrett.
sending you my screenshots, but
Thank you.
It'll be okay.
Thank you. I dream of the day folks stop sending me their Alexstrasza.
first place with Alex.
Yeah. I put it all on black and it came up black. Oh, wow. What a great Vegas story. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh my god.
I'll go to my grave being salty about Alexstrasza. It's so it wouldn't. So there's an example in the game right now. That's a good point. I don't know exactly how I would do it without
Rokara
ripping
could
off.
could be pirates for sure, but without stealing straight from Alexstrasza.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ysera is kind of an example of how it's like not particularly impactful. Like Ysera is pretty average on the lower side of average hero. Same with
I feel like
Alexstrasza, for that matter.
Ysera, when I pick her, I tend to get a win, but it's very much a third or fourth place as opposed to a first.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like the perma growing discussion you were having. I could see that working for Rokara. I could also see Rokara being a candidate if they had a really rad new idea for a pirate hero, but they don't know what hero to assign it to.
Could see it.
Yeah. I feel like her, if it was somehow tied to pirates and also the stats and growing and if it lives and or attacks and lives and all that kind of stuff. I feel like there's the potential for that to be so broken because that does feel very piratey. Like you're right, that's very an Eliza thing, and also the other guy that's like hanging from the rigging stuff with his sword out. Oh, what's that? He's early Eliza.
Early.
Rip
Oh,
Snarl Captain.
Yeah, there you
There you
go.
go. Thank you. I'm like, dude, you get a pirate hanging from rigging. You are going to need to be way more specific.
That's true. That's
Yes.
true. That's my bad.
The old Rip Snarl. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're assuming they're going to end up with all 10 mercenaries in BGs. So I'm going to cheat a little bit because the ones I'm thinking of, I want to know what they're going to do with the hero power. I want to know how Varden Dawngrasp is going to translate to Battlegrounds because I have no clue how they're going to do spells and magey stuff in BGs. Like you think about someone like Tamsin, you could do whenever your hero takes damage, you either get a stat boost or a gold or something, right? That makes sense. Cariel, you could do something with 1-star minions or whatever. You could do like a fixed Tyrion sort of thing. I have no idea what they're going to do with Varden Dawngrasp, and I am interested to see which direction they decide to take them if every mercenary does end up coming into BGs.
I'm sure we're going to get every mercenary because it
Yeah.
seemed like the overarching theme of this year, alongside the mode that it's almost September and we still don't have. But also, it did seem very much like their year of the mercenary, because that was also the story thread that was supposed to continue through, that they were going to tell us about in all the different modes and everything else. And, we were supposed to get to know all these characters. So I would expect all of them at some point to make it into Battlegrounds. I just don't know like which ones they're going to prioritize, because I would also assume that we're going to get them all the way to the end of the year, right? So
Original Varden was freezing. They could experiment with freezing combat. It'd be interesting, especially.
It'd be interesting, right? Like a minion just skips its next attack.
Yeah, the most interesting thing that pops in my head is like leftmost enemy minion, because then you would get your cleavers in a lot of cases, or imagine how it would counter an Alakir. Like there is some interesting strategy there, but like I feel like it's feast or famine, depending on the hero you're going up against and what that hero has on board. It would like hard counter Alakir and hard counter Illidan, at least half of Illidan's
I mean,
bonus.
the Battlegrounds game mode hard counters Illidan.
Yes, Illidan's existence hard counters Illidan, which is really accurate to kind of Illidan kind of never doing himself favors in the lore of Warcraft. But yeah.
I'm sure he'll be broken in 10,000 years.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I don't think it would be. I don't think finding ways to incorporate freezing into the battle system of Battlegrounds is completely off the table. But my brain starts to hurt when I think about the value proposition of that. I think
it's really interesting, because it would be kind of disruptive, I think, in the same way that like a Rafam is disruptive, right? So like when you see that you're going up against Rafam, particularly in the like early to mid stages, then you might make a decision to be like, oh hey, I don't want to, give him something good, so I'm going to put like my token out first, or something bad, so that when he kills it, he's not going to get it, or he'll get it, but it's just like 1 gold and who cares? So I feel like, that kind of play, I think, is interesting to me, is that like makes you make different decisions depending on who you're going up against. And if I know my leftmost minion is going to miss its first attack, then I'm going to do stuff like not put my Spawn of N'Zoth there. I'm going to put that second, or, like there's different things you could potentially do and have to play around. And it also has some heroes, like you say, like with Alakir, that it just straight up would counter. And so I think this is just like really, I don't know. I think it's really interesting. And I like that idea very much of incorporating positional freezing.
Could be very like that. That's the thing about what makes BGs dynamic, especially is when you have heroes where you have agency to make different decisions based around them, and it makes each game different. Like the example of Rafam, if I'm against Deathwing, I'm going to buy a Rat Pack whether I'm beast or not. That sort of thing is really cool and adds some value and interesting stuff to BGs. So yeah, I think it's a really, what kind of idea is it? Really cool.
Oh.
Yeah, because freezing it's cold.
It's cold, yeah, because
Yeah.
the ice.
Joss she's from Canada. Garrett's like, what are you talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about. The only time I was cold once in my life, it was Jocelyn's wedding day. Yeah. Whatever the case is, just make it. If you start experimenting with freezing in Battlegrounds, make sure it can't hit taunt minions, or I'm going to be real sad. Because they're probably going to die before they can attack anyway. All right, Hat. What does Hidden Jester have to say?
One more question here from Hidden Jester. This might be recency bias, but I don't remember burfs. That is the word that's written here, BERFS. I didn't mispronounce it. Burfs, where a minion's cost, attack, and health all increased, being something that happened often in the past. The 8 updates in 21.0.3 includes 3 cards, Il'gynoth, Darkglare, and Kolkar Packrunner that do this. And Il'gynoth is actually, this is written down, I promise, I'm reading it, a double burf, where everything increased by 2. Do you think we'll see more of these often in the future? Is there some reason why this particular patch and meta needed so many of them? I hope they do more so I can say double burf every episode in the future. I'm updating the title of the show now. The double burf is the name of the show title. That's what's going on right
That
now.
is very bad SEO. It's at the end of the show. It has nothing to do with what everyone's talking about in Hearthstone right now.
Doesn't matter. Hat
I love
loves it.
You're welcome to replace the show title while I'm talking because I'm going to go for a little bit here. So, the first episode of The Angry Chicken that I ever listened to was about a card balance change. There was this card called Warsong Commander.
Oh my god. Could you have picked a more historical episode to start listening to?
Okay. That was the first episode of The Angry Chicken I ever listened to, and it's topical of this discussion, so we're going with it. This was many, many years ago, 2015, I think, maybe 2014. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it's 2015. So, Warsong Commander did not get burfed. It got nerfed very hard. It's a 3-mana 2/3 that went from your minions with 3 attack or less have charge to your minions with charge have +1 attack. The card got deleted entirely. It was no longer remotely playable. It had a completely different function. You go on through history. They changed their approach a little bit when they started nerfing more quickly, but they still generally moved one big number on the card because they wanted the function to stay the same, just move the most easy to understand thing with the assumption that minimizing complexity changes was a good idea. So you look at something like you look in One Night in Karazhan's Spirit Clause. It was a 1-mana 1/3 weapon, then moved to a 2-mana 1/3 weapon. They didn't change anything else. They just moved the mana cost because again, if a card changes in both function and form, it can be confusing to keep up with. It's basically a new card. But that's not been their approach lately. And you look at what the team has done the past few years, and especially under the directorship of Ben Lee, this is where it changed. The assumption has been made, not even the assumption, but I think basically the understanding that the player base is majority tenured and experienced players, more veteran players, a lot fewer new players, and is more of a focus on what can we do to keep the game interesting without deleting cards and make sure that every card has an audience. If you slightly nudge cards or if you nerf them, but also give them something to have that they still get to see some level of play, then you have a wider variety of cards that you can see play in standard. And that's better for the game to have more things that you get to do. And if a player has a card in their collection and a deck that they've been playing for a month or multiple months, and then they nerf the core card in it, and you can't even consider playing the deck anymore without losing every game, that feels terrible. So, what can we do to make a deck 1% worse but still playable? That's been the direction they're going in, which is where the birth was birthed.
Okay, how did you make a pun out of a non-word?
I don't know. It was just gestating in my head for a while.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I don't like this.
point. So,
You
the
don't
point here is-
like burps?
so if you
You're gonna make me
delete
barf.
a card, you change the meta, but you don't have to delete a card to change the meta anymore. You can just make it a little worse so it is equally competitive as other options, because the whole point of nerfs and buffs and whatever is to give players other options, and fully deleting a card feels bad for the person that liked the thing that was happening before and doesn't necessarily make the meta better by removing an option. If we completely removed Spellmage from the meta, then Quest Shaman and all the Warlock decks would be too good. But instead, they waited on nerfing Flow. They nerfed Water instead. They waited on nerfing Flow until Quest Mage was printed. Then they could pull Flow back a little. But if they pulled Flow back last expansion, Mage just vanishes. And people liked playing Mage, so they didn't want Mage to vanish. You want to clip decks win rate, but you don't want to destroy them. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. If that makes sense.
It helps that charge isn't really in the game anymore.
Sure. I mean, there's still burst damage happening.
Oh, is there
like,
burst
a
damage in
lot of
Hearthstone right now?
that.
Is there burst damage in Hearthstone right now?
There is, but it's
Huh.
no longer on a minion that just like you have to work for it now. It's no longer on a minion that like you just play it and then it.
Yeah, I have to play Battle Master. I have to work for it. I have to spend 6 mana. Oh, the humanity.
Used to be 6 mana would get you a Battle Master and a Pyroblast. It is much more expensive now.
That's fair. That is very fair. But I certainly prefer the way things are now in terms of the approach towards balancing just in general.
Mhm.
And when I say now, I mean like in the recent years of Hearthstone.
Yeah, we're now at the point where it's been multiple years of this kind of philosophy, and I think it is a good thing. I don't necessarily like to see things made unplayable. I know that, sometimes we get a little hyperbolic on the show and, delete Demon Hunter, delete Priest, delete Cube back in the day.
Until I
But,
started playing Priest, and I was always playing
Going
Cube.
back.
So, yeah. Cube was great.
yeah.
I don't know what your problem was.
Yeah.
Your problem was you weren't
But I'm
playing
just saying,
Cube.
I know we get hyperbolic, but realistically, I don't ever like to see stuff because I do realize that there are people who like playing all of these things that I don't necessarily like playing, which almost puts a big bow on the show to say like there's a lot of people with a lot of different preferences that are playing Hearthstone, and the more variety we have, the better. So I think this style of updating the game and changing the meta and balancing cards is healthier for the game as a whole, and I think makes it a lot more fun for a lot more people.
Yeah. And it's not without its downsides too. You look at the beginning of Barons, they had to nerf Paladin so many times to make Paladin not the best deck anymore. And it can feel kind of silly when it's like nerf, play Paladin, nerf, play Paladin, nerf, play Paladin, nerf, Paladin's dead. But you either take the risk of letting people still have fun with the class, or you take the risk of leaving it there, right? Like or of leaving it there being a bad thing. And it's an interesting and difficult choice to make. But I think generally the idea of let people who like a certain way to play keep playing it, because if something is popular, there must be a draw to it beyond just the win rate. Allowing that to drive balanced decisions, I think, is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I do not disagree with anything that was just said.
We did it, fam.
We solved
Yeah.
Hearthstone. No one will ever disagree about Hearthstone again. You're welcome. We will accept our Nobel Hearthstone Peace Prize.
People can't even agree what a control deck is. You think that we can make them agree about how they should feel?
Oh my God! Are you going to tell me that you prefer control decks with pineapple on it? Because I swear to Christ.
Pineapple control. All right, that's the title of the episode. Pineapple control. That would be way too much of a non sequitur. I'm leaving it at double birth. Everyone will get that one.
Pineapple life tap. It's when I go to pick my pineapple from the backyard. I actually have pineapple plants and they stab me. That's life tap with a pineapple. That's
Why
what that
do
is.
all of your plants suck? What's going on with your backyard?
What? No. I love
Your
the pineapple
mango
plants.
tree and your
I like pineapple.
plants?
I just don't like hot pineapple. Hot pineapple grosses me out. Must be cold, and preferably with rum.
All right, we're back on the same page. We're back.
Cool. Something we can all agree on. Rum makes everything. Rum makes some things better. Saying rum makes everything better is a concerning statement. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Angry Chicken. If you liked it, if you were entertained, if you were informed, if you were so mad that you want to listen again to see if we can make you madder, consider supporting over at patreon.com/TAC. We are an independent show. I mean, I'm sure it's
Do
some
people
point.
hate re-listen?
I'm
Is
sure
that a thing?
someone did. I'm sure someone right now is probably like, I effing love pineapple on my pizza, and I'm going to listen again next week to see if this ass hat pisses me off even more.
If you hate our show, put it on repeat and leave your phone at home. Just go nuts.
Play it for your next door neighbor you can't stand on repeat over and over and over again, please. Because clearly seriously, check out patreon.com/DAC, get access to our Discord, get an ad-free version of the show, an RSS feed burnt just for you, just for you for supporting us on Patreon. All patrons get the perks that I just mentioned. And we also want to thank our Patreon producers, Declan H. and Jeffrey D. Thank you so much for the support. If you want to become a producer, check out patreon.com/TAC. We really appreciate your support. Other than that, the back catalog of Angry Chicken episodes can be found over at, you guessed it, theangrychicken.com. Or if you want to watch the YouTube archive, see our beautiful faces, you can do so at youtube.com/amove2. That 2 is numerical. It's the number 2. It's not spelled out. Other than that, you can follow the show on Twitter at TAC Podcast, where right now you can enter to win the Beauties and Cuties, or is it Cuties and Beauties? Beauties and Cuties Battlegrounds giveaway, courtesy of the Hearthstone team. Send us some codes to give away. We'll be announcing 4 winners on next week's show. So head on over to TAC Podcast and retweet that tweet. Also follow us. You gotta follow us. Other than that, Joss, where can you be found other than the instance where you are apparently now a permanent host?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. That's JOCE Plays.
Hat, what about yourself?
You can find me. The hub of my content is twitter.com/ridiculoushat. That's where I post things like decks and tweets and shows and go live notifications and giveaways. But also I do 2 other podcasts, Coin Concede, dedicated to making that side of the Hearthstone more accessible to you, and Vicious Syndicate, a data-driven look at the standard environment. You can find those at coinconcede.com and vicioussyndicate.com. And Garrett, what about you, buddy?
I was going to say you heard it here first. Get your Ridiculous Hat deck picks by following him at Ridiculous Hat. I can be found on Twitter at Garrett Art, amove.tv for this podcast and every single other one that I produce. That's going to do it for this episode of The Angry Chicken. Until next time, while Jocelyn is still covering her face and laughing herself to death, job's done.
Job's done.
Joss is done and job's done.
Oh
Are
my
we
God.
supposed to retitle the episode Deck Picks? Is that what we're supposed to do right now?
Goddamn right. Deck
We finally
picks,
figured it
deck
out.
picks, deck picks.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Show your deck. Show your deck.
I'm leaving all this in the recording. By the way, if we're playing Diablo, you don't do that. You post Deckard picks.
Deckard's out for Harambe.
Yeah. Boy, we are cross-pollinating references. All right, I'm gonna stop recording now.
Woo! It was something about the way you said that. I was like, that made me giggle, and I want to share it with the world.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Get your decks on my Twitter or something like that, you said. And I was like, that's funny.
I'm glad that you did what you did.
Kalis in the chat room specifically requests Hat's pineapple control deck picks.
I love how by the end of the stream, we're all just mashing every word that we said together and just leaving this mess of memes.
All right, I do want to know, chat room, what do you think? Do you think the episode's title is deck picks? Do you think it's burf?
No, the double burf.
The double burf?
The double burf. It's a very exciting occasion.
F in chat for deck picks, G in chat for double burf.
I mean, deck picks, at least because we talked about the meta, like it makes more sense with more of the episode.
Did you say F for deck picks? You're having people pay respects.
Yes.
Deck
Your
picks.
deck picks.
Yes. Because
They are
the one
very
thing
respectable,
tonight
thank you.
made multiple members of this show die, it was deck picks.
This is not a choice. We know what we're doing. We're asking the listeners to dignify us, but we don't need to do that. We don't have any dignity.
It's been a long time since I've had
my
a
God.
great desire to make a new TAC t-shirt, and I think I may have a new one I really want to make.
Oh my God.
Oh. Gerain says pineapple births should be the episode title.
I could be convinced.
Deckard
Now I
Peck's
want
weird
pizza.
flex, but okay.
I want pizza so bad. Ever since we started talking about pizza, I was like, yes, I need to go eat pizza.
That's my secret.
What kind of pizza would you get?
I
right
always
now?
want pizza.
Oh yes.
I would get a pineapple, feta, and pepperoni because it's fucking delicious.
Oh my god, feta too. Get the fuck out. Oh
Yeah.
my god, fuck.
The
Ugh.
feta is a little weird. I'm not saying that I dislike feta. I'm saying feta and pineapple is a combination that I have trouble. What's
But once you
visualizing
have it,
for your mouth? What is
Yeah.
what is that? Taste.
I'm telling you.
Not only
I'm telling you,
yeah.
it's really good.
Not only thank you for
thanks,
the sub,
Uranus.
but
Super
thank you for
sweet
your
and
name.
super salty, all in the same pizza, and it's really good.
Is feta salty?
Yeah, feta's salty.
Feta is disappointing.
Kind of.
Feta's like fancy
I
cottage
love
cheese.
feta.
No, I like feta on the savory pizzas because it has that kind of creamy, smooth texture of like you do it on a grilled chicken pizza with mushrooms and onions and garlic powder, and it's really really good to have feta on that. Really really great. But that's kind of like a really savory sort of thing.
I also want to say thank you, Uranus, because that's awesome. Thank you, Uranus.
Yes.
Appreciate the sub.
What?
I also
Oh.
appreciate your name.
He sub. No, it's just a great planet.
Yeah. it's great.
Just
It's
really
great.
really happy.
I just
about
want to
it.
thank Uranus. What's wrong with that?
I try and thank a different planet every day of the week, and it's Uranus Day.
Apparently, I missed. the
Boy,
best.
I don't love that phrase. It's not my favorite phrase that I've ever said out loud.
Are you sure? You sure about that? Yeah.
We should probably go offline before we give
I
Garrett
don't-
more T-shirt ideas.
I don't know. Uranus Day sounds good. It sounds like a good day.
Yeah.
You should celebrate. Everyone should take a moment and celebrate your solar system. You thought I was going another way with that, didn't you?
Mhm.
I thought that you were gonna go for the low-hanging fruit there, but I appreciate you.
That
leaving
wouldn't
for
be
future
that wouldn't be Uranus.
Oh
At least I hope not.
no, that'd be my pineapple.
It's so high up there in the solar system. It's not hanging low.
Is it,
All
is
right.
it vertical or like yeah?
Okay.
We're losing
On-
cohesion here.
Yeah.
On that terrible disappointment, we will bid you all adieu. Thank you for hanging out, everybody. Bye.
And we're sorry, I think. Bye.
Little sorry.